approaching retirement age. And during that webinar, we'll focus on when to claim Social Security, so stay tuned for that invitation. And one last thing before I turn it over to Amy Matsui, we have another question for you. So please choose how you're currently saving for retirement apart from contributing to Social Security. You can choose more than one option here, so choose all that apply to you. And we'll take about another 15 seconds or so for you to get your answers in. Another few seconds. Thanks for your answers. And it looks like lots of individuals on the webinar are participating in their employers' plans and putting some money away in savings. So now I have the pleasure of turning it over to Amy Matsui. Go ahead, Amy.
Thanks, Amy Q. Again, my name is Amy Matsui. I'm Senior Counsel here at the Law Center, and I'm going to tackle the first part of the basics on pensions, retirement savings, and then my colleague Joan Entmacher is going to handle the Social Security portion of the Retirement 101. So I'm going to start by saying that as the slides that Amy walked us through a couple minutes ago demonstrate, and as you know very well, saving for retirement is incredibly important for women. We know that times are tight and everyone's budgets are pinched, but anything that you can save for retirement that can help supplement Social Security will benefit you in the long run. So we applaud and encourage you, and thank you for being on this webinar to learn a little bit more about how to make sure you can do that. We also know that in addition to being tough to save anything on a tight budget, retirement savings often feels complicated and confusing. So we want very much to give you just a couple basic tips and bits of information to get you started and put you a little bit more at ease. So what I'm going to be doing now is giving you a little bit of background information about some special savings vehicles that are especially targeted for retirement to help you put a little bit of a nest egg together to help in once you retire. So we're going to start just by going through 3 different types. The first is a traditional pension, which is also called a defined benefit plan, a pension plan that you would get through your work. In addition to traditional pensions, we're going to give a little information about individual account plans, and so these are like 401ks. And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about individual retirement accounts, or IRAs, which may be available to you through work, but you can also get individually. So to kick us off with some information about traditional or defined benefit pensions. The way that these work are, again, they come to you, you're able to participate in them through your employer. They pay a specific monthly benefit for the rest of your life once you retire. That benefit is based on a formula targeting how long you worked and often what your salary was at your highest earning points. And finally, one of the great benefits of traditional defined benefit pensions, in addition to having benefits that last for your entire life, is that there is no investment risk to workers. The investments are handled by the employer, and you don't have to make those kinds of decisions about how to invest the funds. In addition to traditional defined benefit pensions, an increasing number of workplaces offer individual account plans. The defined benefit plans that your parents or grandparents may have had 40 years ago are great, but they're increasingly disappearing and being replaced with plans like 401ks. So the way that an individual account plan works is that employees contribute part of their salary. Often the employer will put a little bit on top of that in what's called an employer match. These individual account plans often have tax benefits. And as a result, there are contribution limits which change by year. In 2013, the contribution limit is $17,500 per year. And if you're over age 50, you can contribute an additional $5,500 on top of that. The way that you calculate benefits for an individual account plan is that the amount of money that the employee contributes, any match on top of that, and then the investment gains or losses and are added to that, and then any expenses from the plan are subtracted, and that's what you end up with when you retire. And as I mentioned, the main type of plan, individual account plan that people are familiar with, is a 401k, but there are also different kinds of plans called like stock ownership plans. Nonprofits and educational institutions have 403bs, and then there's another type of individual account plan called the SEP, or Simplified Employee Pension. And finally, the last kind of account that we're going to cover is an individual retirement account, or an IRA. And an individual may be able to access this through their employer, but they can also set up an IRA from a financial services provider, a bank, another kind of service provider, and that is something that you can set up on your own. There are also tax benefits to IRAs, and the contribution limits are a little bit smaller than for individual account plans through employers like 401ks. Every year, for the year 2013, individuals can contribute $5,500 plus a catch-up of $1,000 if you're age 50 or over in 2013, and have that have a tax preference. Alternatively, if that is equal to 100% of your income, that is the limit for your contribution. There are two types of IRAs. One is a traditional, where you can deduct the contributions from your income before you're taxed. And a Roth IRA is one where your contributions are not tax preferred, but you do get to not have taxation on the whatever you've accumulated and how the account balance has increased when you retire. So in addition to these three different types of savings vehicles that you can use to specially save for retirement, there's a special tax credit which is available to moderate income workers. The Savers Tax Credit is a non-refundable credit which can be worth up to $1,000 or $2,000 for married couples filing jointly. If you are within the income limits, $27,750 for singles and $55,500 for married couples, your contributions to a 401k, an IRA, or another retirement savings account can earn you a tax credit. Unfortunately, it's not refundable, but it can increase a tax refund that you might get from other pieces of your kind of tax puzzle. But the Savers Tax Credit is a good one to know about for your saving journey. So as I mentioned, a lot of folks feel very kind of confused and intimidated by the process of saving for retirement. There are a few easy steps that you can take to at least get started on saving. First of all, find out if your job is covered by a pension or retirement savings plan. And then if it is, you need to check and see whether you're eligible to participate. Employers under law can set certain limits. For example, how many years you've been working for your employer, how old you are can affect when you can start to participate in a pension or retirement savings plan. For most traditional defined benefit pensions, if you're eligible, your employer will go ahead and enroll you. But if there's an individual account plan, you may have to take the step of enrolling yourself in the individual account plan. Usually, your employer will have an open enrollment period, which for many employers happens right around the end of the year, so that's coming up soon if you haven't enrolled already. And then some employers have started to automatically enroll their employees in a 401k or other kind of defined contribution plan. So you just need to be on the lookout to see what the enrollment policy is if you are covered for a plan at work and eligible to participate. The next piece, once you take the step of finding out if you have a pension or retirement savings plan at work and get yourself enrolled if you're eligible, is how do you start saving? We do encourage you to make sure that you're enrolled as soon as you change jobs and start saving as soon as possible. If you have a traditional defined benefit pension, you don't have to do anything. Contributions will be made in the form of credits for the time that you're working, and so you don't have to put anything in on top of or anything at all. You don't have to do anything. It's on autopilot. If you have an individual account plan, you're going to need to decide how much of your salary you contribute to your account. Generally, up to the maximum amount, which is allowed by year. You can either take a percentage of your salary, or you can just take an amount and divide that up by the number of pay periods. You can always start small and build up. If you are, as you're proceeding in your career, if you get raises or bumps up in your salary, just keep checking back to make sure that your contributions to your retirement savings plan are keeping pace with what your salary is. Some employers will also automatically increase your contributions and kind of help you along that path, and then you just need to keep an eye on what those escalations are. And then finally, one important thing to consider when you're trying to decide about how much money to contribute to your individual account plan is how much you have to contribute in order for your employer to offer the match. If you don't contribute enough to get the match, you may be leaving money on the table, and it could be a difference of a very small amount in order to get that contribution from your employer. It's really important for you to at least try your best not to leave that money on the table and think about whether you can afford the contribution level to get your employee match. While you are participating in a retirement plan at work, there are a couple of important documents that you should keep track of. We know that you get a million emails and a million pieces of paper, but these are really important ones to keep track of your retirement savings. The first of these is the summary plan description. Every employer's pension plan is a little bit different. They have different rules for, as we'll talk about later, when you can take money out, when you can put money in, who's eligible to participate. The Summary Plan Description, or SPD, is a booklet which informs you about all of the details of your employer's retirement savings or pension plan. Eligibility, how the benefit is earned, how the benefit is paid, and how you can get those benefits when it's time to retire. The benefit statement is also a very important piece of paper. It will tell you how much you have earned in benefits. It will tell you how much of those benefits are automatically 100% yours, and how many of those benefits have not yet vested. And vesting, as we'll talk about in a little bit more detail, is when you have worked with an employer for enough time to have full ownership rights over your pension and retirement savings. That can apply most likely to traditional defined benefit pensions, but also to employer matches. So this benefit statement will help you keep track of that. It's only an estimate, but it also, in some cases, will fold in how Social Security or other benefit payments can affect your pension and retirement savings benefits. So as the first part of this short section of slides talked about how you can get started saving for retirement and what you can start contributing if you need to. And while you're working, a couple of other questions can come out. First is, we know that emergencies happen, people have bumps in the road and unexpected and sometimes large expenses, and a retirement savings account can seem like a perfect place to have a cushion or that emergency fund. Just want to take the opportunity to remind you that these are funds which are for your retirement, and it's important to try and keep that money there while you, as much as you can, if that's humanly possible. But we know that sometimes people need access to the money in their retirement accounts. For a traditional defined benefit pension plan, you generally cannot take money out because it's not an account per se, it's credits rather than money. And in addition, you frequently are not able to take a loan out against your pension plan. But depending on what your specific plan provides, you may be able to take a loan or a hardship distribution from your 401k or other individual account. I do want to flag for you that because these accounts have tax benefits and tax preferences, taking money out of these retirement plans before you actually retire can subject you to a tax penalty. And on top of that, the money that you take out may be taxed at your regular rate because it's basically income that you are have in your hands rather than deferring by putting in a retirement plan. Also want to flag that if you take a loan out from your individual account plan, generally you can't take more than 50%, but if you change jobs, you may have to pay that loan back in full before you do that. A couple of other things to think about. For women in particular, it's important because more women are part-time workers, and some pension plans do not cover part-time workers, and you have to check with your summary plan description to see whether your plan does. But if you are covered, even though you have a reduced salary, try very hard to make sure that you're not leaving that employer match on the table and contribute enough to get that match from your employer. If you're part-time and you aren't covered by your pension or retirement savings plan at work, there is still a way for you to save for your retirement, and that's an individual retirement account. So think about starting an IRA. You can often contribute to an IRA either as an individual because you don't have coverage at work, or you can also, as a spouse, often open an IRA and save as much as you can through that kind of account. Some other things to think about your retirement savings and pensions. More and more over time, we know that people are changing jobs. Most women will have at least 4 or 5 over their lifetime. And so one of the things that you have to keep track of when you change your jobs is what is happening to your retirement accounts and to your pensions. If you have a traditional pension, you need to find out before you change your job whether or not your benefits have vested, whether or not you've worked long enough at the place of your employment and been participating in your pension plan long enough to have 100% right to your pension benefits. If you leave your job or take a break from your job before those benefits have fully vested, you may lose some or all of them. So that's an important thing to keep track of through your annual benefit statement. If you have an individual account plan, leaving your job and taking care of your retirement savings, it can be a little bit easier. First of all, know that your contributions, whatever has come out of your salary and been put into a retirement savings account, those are always 100% vested. The question for you to find out is whether or not, if you get a match from your employer, whether you have 100% rights over those. So that's something that your benefit statement will also tell you. As you leave your employer, you have a couple of options. If you have an amount over $1,000 to $5,000, that amount in your retirement savings, you may be able to leave your savings account with that employer plan, the one that you're leaving. You also may be able to roll your account balance into a new employer plan, so that's something that you need to check with your new employer and your old employer. Alternatively, you can roll over your account balance into an IRA. If you do that, you will be able to avoid the tax penalty that I mentioned earlier, and you will keep building your nest egg for retirement. So make sure that you keep your retirement savings for retirement, and in addition to that, having those funds ready for yourself, you'll also be able to avoid any tax penalty. So always keep track of your former employer and your former employee's pension or retirement savings plan, and make sure that they know how to get in touch with you. Another issue that will often impact women in the workforce is that women are often required to take some time out of the workforce, whether this is for family or medical leave, to take care of children during some part of your parenting career, or if, as is increasingly required, to take care of relatives, a spouse that's ill, or other family members. Sometimes women have to take a break from work. And if so, it's important to think about not only, what your salary would look like, what your agreement is with your employer, if your insurance can continue. If you are taking a permanent break from the workforce, you need to keep track of your pension and retirement savings. As I mentioned before, if you have a traditional benefit, defined benefit pension and you're out of the workforce or out of your job for too long, you may lose your benefits if you're not vested. If you have retirement savings, if they are more than $1,000, you can stay in the plan even though you can't contribute anything. You can roll your benefits into an IRA and have the tax savings continue that way, and also prevent yourself from having a tax penalty. Because remember, if you take the money out and spend it, you're going to be taxed on those benefits, and then you'll have a penalty on top of that. Even if you're not working, if you can, try and contribute at least a little bit to your IRA, whether it's some unexpected money that you get as a windfall or even a tax refund. If you can try and contribute even a little bit to your IRA while you're not working, that will pay off in the long run. The last topic that I'm going to cover in pensions and retirement savings today has to do with spousal issues. I do want to flag for you that after the Supreme Court ruled part of the Defense of Marriage Act unconstitutional last year, spouses also includes same-sex spouses who are validly married in a state or foreign jurisdiction that recognizes same-sex marriage. So, because pensions are part of what a family, a spousal unit, a married couple kind of earns together, and it's considered marital property. And in addition, a pension or retirement savings plan can often be one of the largest assets in a marriage. For those reasons, it's very important for spouses to keep track of pensions and retirement savings, especially during a divorce. When a couple gets divorced, depending on how long the marriage lasted and how long during the marriage the spouse has worked at particular places or contributed to particular retirement savings or pension plans, spouses may be entitled to a share of a pension or retirement savings plan at divorce. This is a very complicated issue. Trying to decide what rights there are and how much those rights are worth is a very complicated proposition that generally requires a lawyer to help figure this out. So if you are in the unfortunate situation of getting divorced, please keep your eyes on the pension and how that can be split up. Other benefits that people should be aware of that are connected to spouses, some of which also apply to divorced spouses, are survivor benefits. In traditional defined benefit pensions, when you get the benefit in the form of a certain amount of a monthly payment, if you are a married couple, that benefit will get paid to your spouse after the worker dies. It's slightly smaller than what was received by the couple together during both of their lifetimes, but some part of that pension benefit will continue to get paid to the surviving spouse, and that can be very important for their retirement security. So please, make sure that if that's something that you as a couple decide to do, that continues to be available for the surviving spouse. And in addition, there are a couple of rights during a marriage. For example, from an individual account plan like a 401k, if the worker wants to take a loan out, they need to get spousal consent. If they want to have someone else be the beneficiary in case they die while they're on the job, the spouse needs to consent. So these are all things to keep track of with regard to pension benefits and retirement savings for spouses. So I hope that that's given you a little bit of an overview of pensions and retirement savings that are helpful for women as you are starting your saving journey. And at this point in the presentation, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Joan Entmacher, who's going to talk to you about Social Security. Joan, take it away.
Yeah, thanks so much, Amy. I'm going to be talking about Social Security as a retirement plan, which is the way most people think of Social Security. But before I do that, I just want to remind you, particularly since this audience includes people who are still have a lot of years of working and contributing to go, that there are important benefits that Social Security provides before retirement. It provides life insurance for young families if you are working or married to a worker covered by Social Security. For a young family, that life insurance is worth over $400,000. And the same with disability. If you or a working spouse becomes disabled, Social Security provides disability insurance protections that are worth over $400,000 for a young family. So in addition to the retirement benefits, which are on the next slide, we keep in mind that Social Security is there when other things happen. Next. Social Security is the main source of retirement income for the large majority of Americans, but it's especially important for women. Women 65 and older receive over 60% of their retirement income from Social Security. And for nearly 3 in 10 older women, Social Security is virtually the only source of income. Now, that's not a great position to be in. If you follow some of the good advice that Amy just gave, you will be able to supplement your Social Security, and that's important. But it's helpful to know that you've got this strong foundation from Social Security that you can build on. It really is important to people. Without the income that Social Security provides, about half of all women 65 and older would be poor. Next. If you've been listening to Amy and thinking, oh my gosh, I don't have a pension plan at work, I have to do it all myself, be aware that you do have a pension plan. It's called Social Security. The benefits aren't very generous, and you'll want more than that when you retire, but it is a very important and very solid plan. It's universal. Over 90% of Americans are covered by Social Security. It follows you from job to job. You don't have to worry about whether you vested or not. It provides benefits that you can't outlive. You don't have to worry about stretching what's in your 401k to last for your lifetime. And the Social Security benefits are adjusted annually for inflation, which even private defined benefit plans ordinarily don't do. You don't have to worry how the stock market is doing with your Social Security benefits. You can predict what they are. And Social Security has a benefit formula that gives workers who have lower lifetime earnings, which includes most women, a higher percentage of their pre-retirement earnings. That is, higher earners will get more from Social Security, but if you're a low earner, you will get a bigger portion of your former salary. And the last point is that Social Security provides benefits for spouses, surviving spouses, and divorced spouses, and those are automatic when you file for benefits. You don't have to remember to bring them up in a divorce, and they don't affect the benefits that your ex-spouse or a second spouse might get. So it doesn't produce a source of tension within the family when you need those benefits. Okay, so how do you qualify for benefits as a retired worker? You need 40 credits, the equivalent of 10 years worth of work, and for the disability and life insurance benefits I mentioned, for young workers, fewer years, obviously. If you're only 30 years old and become disabled, you won't be expected to put in 10 years worth of work. It doesn't take a very high level of earnings to get a credit towards Social Security. In 2013, as long as you made a little over $1,100, you could get one credit. $4,640, you earn 4 credits towards Social Security. That's the maximum number of credits you can earn in a year. So is it important to earn more than $4,600? Yes, it is, because the higher earnings will raise your benefit, but by getting at least 40 credits, you will qualify for Social Security. And of course, you have to be in a job covered by Social Security, which most jobs are, including self-employment. There are only some public employee plans that are not. Next. One of the good things about Social Security is that it's automatically done for you. If you are working, the contributions are taken out of your paycheck automatically. They're matched by your employer. By law, you don't have to worry about making contributions or how much you're going to contribute. You can keep track of your estimated retirement benefits. You can find out how much you'll get from Social Security, and that enables you to figure out what you need to supplement it so that you'll have a secure retirement. And if you plan ahead, and I'll get to, including when you claim Social Security, you can raise your benefits even more. Next. Part-time work. Amy mentioned this. With Social Security, because it only takes a modest amount to earn credits, you could easily work part-time and get credit toward Social Security. You could work for part of a year. If you're a student and do most of your work in the summers, you might be able to earn some credits toward Social Security. And the fact that you earned it by part-time work or part-year work doesn't matter. What if you take time out of the workforce? Well, you need 40 credits to qualify. Your 0 years won't take away from your eligibility for retirement benefits, but I'm going to talk in a minute about how those benefits are calculated, and those 0 years might lower the amount that you get each month. Next slide. So when it comes time to calculate your benefits, how much you get each month, Social Security takes your highest 35 years of wages. And they index those. I mean, they know that if you were working, started working 40 years ago, that your salary would obviously be a lot lower than it is today. So they index it for the growth in wages over time. They take the 35 highest years and average them. As I mentioned before, there's a benefit formula that gives you a higher percentage of your average earnings if you are a low earner. And this is important for people who are, at the age 62 or older, where you might be thinking about claiming benefits. If you go on working, your benefits will be recalculated every year to take account of those additional earnings, even if you're already getting benefits. So let's say you had to start claiming benefits, and you had taken 10 years out of the workforce, you qualified for Social Security, but your average was brought down by all those years that you weren't working. If you go on working, they throw out some of those zeros, count your new earnings, so that you can continue to raise your benefits by continuing to work. How much are Social Security retirement benefits on average? Well, they're modest, which is why we talk about both Social Security and pensions and savings. In 2012, the average benefit for women 65 years and older was about $12,700. For men, it was $16,700. The reason it's higher for men is that men generally have higher earnings over their lifetime. As we know, there's a wage gap between women and men, and women are more likely to work part-time and take years out of the workforce. While they are still qualified for Social Security, it does lower their average benefits. You can increase your benefit with higher earnings, earning more or working more years, and you can increase your benefit by waiting to claim it until you reach your full retirement age or even longer. So what's your full retirement age? That's the age at which you are first eligible to get an unreduced benefit. So if you take it before your full retirement age, they subtract from your benefit. But the good news is, if you can afford to wait until after your full retirement age to claim benefits, you can get an increase. So what what is your full retirement age? Well, if you were born between 1943 and 1954, your full retirement age is 66. If you were born between 1955 and 1959, each year it's 66 years plus a couple of months until it reaches 66 years and 10 months for those born in 1959. And if you were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. So, how much can you boost your benefits by waiting to claim? Simple example, let's say your benefit at 66 is $1,000. If you claimed it at 62, it would be $750, 25% lower. And that reduction would persist for the rest of your life. It wouldn't go back up to 1,000 when you reach age 66. So you get more years of benefits if you claim at age 62, but you get smaller benefits for the rest of your life. If you're able to wait until age 68, you get an 8% additional bump up, each year. So your benefit would go up 16% to $1,160. And if you can wait to age 70, you get 8% for 4 years, a 32% increase for $1,320. That is 76% higher than the benefit you would get at age 62. Now, we understand that not everyone can afford to wait, but for those who are able to wait because they can continue to work or have other savings or have the support of a spouse or family member, this is an amazing, secure rate of return and a way to make sure that you have income as you age when you need it. So how can you find out what your benefits might be? You can go to ssa.gov online and see your estimated retirement benefit. If you've already got 10 years or 40 credits, it will show you what you've earned. It can also allow you to estimate what your earnings will be in the future and what your retirement benefits would be at different ages. Some of you may recall getting statements in the mail from Social Security. Sadly, those have been discontinued because of budget cuts. But you can get that online. What about spousal benefits? In addition to the benefits that retired workers earn, the spouse of a worker who earned benefits can get up to 50% of the benefit if you wait until your full retirement age to claim it. Or you can get your own worker benefit if it's worth more than 50% of your spouse's benefit, but you can't combine the two. But one thing you can do, which many people don't know about, if you wait until your full retirement age to claim benefits, you can choose to get just the spousal benefit and let your own worker benefit grow. So let's say you're married and your husband is getting a benefit of $2,000 a month, and you could, at your full retirement age, could go in and say, I'd like, and he's getting his Social Security benefits. You could say, well, I'll take 50% of his benefit. Let's say your own worker benefit is even higher. It's $1,200, but you forego that worker benefit, take the $1,000 as a spousal benefit, and let your $1,200 worker benefit grow by 8% a year. And then whenever you want, you can switch over to that higher worker benefit. Next slide. What benefit are you entitled to as a widower? Widows and widowers are entitled to up to 100% of the deceased spouse's benefit, or your own worker benefit, whichever is higher. And the widower benefit is available at age 60 rather than 62, or age 50 if you are disabled. But that 100% only applies if you and your deceased spouse claim at full retirement age. The benefit that a surviving spouse gets will be reduced if the higher earning spouse claimed early. So if you are married, something that is very important to do is to discuss when each of you are going to claim benefits together, because a higher earning spouse can ensure that the survivor gets a higher benefit by waiting to claim. We'll be talking about these issues a lot more in the next webinar in January. Okay, divorce. As I mentioned earlier, the good news about divorce is that you don't need to bring it up during the divorce. You just bring the paperwork documenting the marriage and divorce when you apply to Social Security. However, in order to get benefits as a divorced spouse, you need to have a marriage that lasted at least 10 years. And unlike spousal benefits for currently married spouses, even if your ex has not filed for his Social Security benefits, as long as he's at least age 62, you can apply for yours. Okay. The next one is the big question. Will Social Security be there when I retire? A lot of young people particularly doubt this. And the answer is yes. Social Security, according to the latest report from the trustees, currently has a surplus of $2.7 trillion. It's invested in Treasury bonds backed by the full faith and credit of the United States that earn interest. Even if Congress did nothing, Social Security would not run out of money in 2033. It can pay 100% of benefits until then, and after that, even if Congress does nothing, it can pay 77% of benefits. Now, that's not good enough. 77% of benefits isn't good enough, but it doesn't take drastic changes to make sure that Social Security can pay 100% of benefits and even improve benefits if we did things like requiring high earners to pay payroll tax on all of their earnings. Next slide. Okay, that concludes the overview of Social Security. We have a set of checklists for planning for retirement. Amy?
Thanks, Joan. So we just wanted to have kind of a quick and easy way to summarize some of the information that we gave you today with just some hints to do what you can to save for retirement and know what your retirement planning comprises while you're working. We understand that it's hard to save, it's hard to make ends meet as it is, but it's important to do what you can when you can to try and prepare for your eventual retirement to make sure that you're secure and comfortable and that you've done what you can. So we've pulled out a couple of slides which have checklists for planning for different decades in your life and working career. And we also are have pulled these together in a fact sheet which is going to be available on our website, and we will send it around with the slides and the recording. So in your 20s, the big thing is to start saving. So balance that obviously with your student loan debt and your consumer debt, and enroll in your employer's plan if you can, and if you can't save at work, try and save through an IRA on your own. Make sure your job is covered by Social Security and keep track of your benefits. Most of those same principles apply in your 30s. Life gets a little bit more complicated. If you've changed jobs, you need to keep track of retirement benefits. If you get raises, make sure that your contributions are keeping pace with that. Don't forget about the Savers Credit, and again, keep your debt as much under control as you can. In your 40s, as you're kind of in the midpoint of your career, remember to try and keep the money there for when you need it for retirement. At a certain point, you may want to try and get some professional help about how to invest whatever you've saved in your individual account plan. What is your retirement strategy as you're approaching the second half of your career? And then it's a good time in your 40s to, when you have major life changes, if you get married, if you have children, if you get divorced, you have to kind of take account of that in your retirement planning as well. And then this last decade that we're going to cover in this presentation, and as Joan mentioned, we're going to be looking more for older workers, folks who are approaching retirement with a little bit closer to coming down the road in the second webinar. But as you're in your 50s, you also may be eligible for higher contribution amounts. You may, again, have to kind of tweak your investment strategy as you are kind of rounding the bend in your career. And you may also have other big expenses like kids in college, or you may be paying for the care of an older relative or a parent. So those are all things that you may require adjusting your retirement planning. So the last couple of slides that we have for you are some resources. We know this has been a lot of information and want to remind you that we're going to send you a copy of the slides as well as a copy of the recording. In addition, there are a number of resources on our website, both related to Social Security and retirement and for other issues as well. And we would like you to stay tuned and hope you'll join us for our second webinar in January, which will have much more detailed information for folks approaching retirement age and specifically focus on the process of claiming Social Security. And last but not least, we have some resources from other organizations and government agencies which can help answer some of your questions. We're going to pause for a minute here and take some of the questions that you all emailed in through the website. And we're sorry we won't be able to answer all of them, but we'll try and do as many as we can, some of the general ones, and we'll try and answer ones after the webinar that are a little bit more specific. So I'm going to field these between Joan and myself. And Joan, I'll start with you. So one question that we got was, people are living longer, so why don't we just raise the Social Security retirement age?
Well, people should understand that raising the Social Security retirement age is really an across-the-board benefit cut. You can't avoid it by waiting to claim longer. It just reduces your benefits whenever you claim it. And the fact is that we really can't afford to cut Social Security benefits now. Most people can't afford that. The change in the pension world that Amy described, with many fewer defined benefit pensions that give lifetime income and the responsibility of contributing to your retirement plan, managing those contributions against all the other financial responsibilities that you have during your life, dealing with the up and downs of the stock market, figuring out what to do with your nest egg when you reach retirement age and have to stretch, what you saved in your 401k throughout the rest of your life, and you don't know how long it's going to be. We really need that strong, stable foundation of Social Security, even more because people are living longer. And the fact is, it's not that hard to make sure that we do that if, as I say, we make sure that the very wealthiest people also make contributions to Social Security on their earnings, and even ask Americans to pay, a tiny amount, just 50 cents more a week in payroll taxes to Social Security could finance some benefit improvements. So I think, we, rather than raising the retirement age, which means a benefit cut for everybody, we should make sure that we keep this secure, stable part of retirement income strong and even strengthen it.
Thank you, Joan. Another question that we had was about contribution limits. And so we were asked about, and this is relevant for individual account plans like IRAs and 401ks, whether the contributions limits are set by the federal government. The answer to that is yes. It's because of the tax preferences for these retirement savings vehicles. Basically, the IRS will give that information out about the contribution limits, but that's set by federal law. It is annually adjusted, so keep checking, but that's how the contribution limits are set. I want to flag that one of the specific questions, and we've had a number of these, deals with federal workers and what the relationship is between federal pension benefits and Social Security. And it's a very complicated question, so for those of you who asked this kind of question, we just wanted to let you know that we will be addressing that in a little bit more detail in the second webinar, but appreciate that a lot of folks have that question. Joan, so I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions, and there's one from a divorced spouse. So the question is, as a divorced person married for over 10 years, can I collect Social Security benefits at age 62 from my ex-husband, continue to work, and how will that affect my worker benefits under Social Security?
If you collect Social Security benefits as a divorced person at age 62, well, first of all, if you're divorced, if you are currently married, if you've remarried and are still married, then you can't collect on your divorced spouse's record. But if you're single, you can collect at 62. However, if you collect at 62, then you can't let your worker benefits continue to grow. If you apply at age 62, you will get the higher of your divorced spouse benefit or your worker benefit, and your own worker benefit will not continue to grow. However, what you could do is apply at age 62. You can't, well, that's it. If you apply at 62, that you'll get a reduced benefit. If you can wait until you are your full retirement age, whatever that may be, let's say it's 66. If you can wait until you are 66, then you can claim just your divorced spouse benefit and let your worker benefit continue to grow. But if you claim at 62, you won't have that option.
Thank you, Joan. And I'm going to have the last question be about the Savers credit. So the question was, I contribute to a 401k at work. Can I get the Savers credit? So the Savers credit, as we mentioned earlier, is a federal tax credit that you claim on your federal income tax return. And if you fall within the income limits, you can get a credit based on the amount that you contribute towards a retirement savings plan like a 401k or an IRA. So you would need to check what the income limits are, and if you satisfy those, yes, you can get the Savers credit for contributions you make to a 401k at work or also an IRA. So unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for questions today, but we will, as we get ready for our next webinar, try and take some of these questions into consideration, and also between then and now, try and answer some of them through kind of our blogs or alerts or other things that we do on our website. Amy Q, I'm going to turn it over to you at this point as we're done with questions. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Amy and Joan. As we end the webinar, you'll see a survey appear on your screen, and we'd ask you to just take a minute or so to fill out that survey to give us feedback for our next webinar, as well as put any remaining questions you have or topics you'd like us to cover on future webinars. We like to take that feedback into account so we make sure that we're getting you the information that you need. So thanks everyone for joining us today, and that survey will appear as we end this webinar. Have a great day.